Chosen one, what if I told you that this Wednesday is not what it looks like on the calendar? That buried beneath the ordinary is a divine eruption waiting to unfold? That while the world calls it midweek, heaven has already marked it as a sacred intersection, where your quiet hope collides with an unseen miracle? This is not just a Wednesday. It's a turning point wrapped in disguise. It's not routine, it's revelation. For days, maybe even years, you've been sowing seeds of faith in silence, smiling through battles, praying through exhaustion, hoping with no confirmation. But the silence hasn't been empty, it's been echoing through eternity. And now, beloved, the echo is returning as a wonder you didn't even know how to ask for. Yes, something wonderful has been waiting for you. Quietly, patiently, heaven set it aside with your name on it. And now it's making its way to your doorstep, not a second too late, not a moment too early. Have you felt it in your spirit lately? That strange anticipation, that inner knowing that something is near but you can't quite name it yet. That's not anxiety, that's alignment. That's what divine timing feels like in your bones. So if your soul has been stirred by this message already, don't hold it in. Type 777 in the comments and let the heavens see your faith rise up like incense. It's not just a number, it's a declaration, a prophetic agreement that you are ready to receive what you didn't even realize had already been assigned to you. And to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks, or even just by listening with your whole heart, I see you. I honor you. Your generosity is not forgotten. You are a vital part of what makes this space sacred. Now breathe in slowly, beloved. Exhale the doubt. Stay with me to the end, because the revelation in this message is laced with manifestation power. Wednesday is not just a day anymore. It's an altar, a door, a key, and just beyond it, something beautiful has been waiting for you, God's chosen ones. Wednesday is not what it seems. Something wonderful is waiting. Wishes don't just float into the universe aimlessly. When whispered with trembling faith, especially during sacred thresholds like this Wednesday, they gather momentum. They become prayers wrapped in divine timing, picked up by angelic winds, and carried straight into the chambers of heaven. You may not see the movement yet, but chosen one, it's already begun. Because when God sets a moment aside just for you, not even the resistance of hell can delay it. And this Wednesday is not ordinary. It's not a placeholder on your calendar. It is a divine dispatch marked with acceleration, orchestration, and manifestation. Why do you think your soul has felt such a strange restlessness lately? Why do you sense something rumbling beneath the surface, though your outer life still looks the same? It's because something sacred is about to erupt. Heaven has aligned a moment where all the delays will make sense, not as punishment, but as divine positioning. Esther knew nothing of royal garments when she was chosen. She was hidden for years, orphaned, unknown. But when the time came, the king extended his scepter, not because she forced her way in, but because divine timing had already whispered her name through the palace halls. Esther 4:14. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. You too are being summoned, not into noise but into purpose, into a divine unveiling. So why this Wednesday? What's so special about now? Because the alignment isn't random. You've walked through fire, not just to survive, but to gain spiritual authority. And the fire didn't just refine you, it revealed you. Heaven has marked this moment to reveal what has been hidden in you, not because you shouted for attention, but because you endured when no one was watching. There's a famous quote by the late bishop and social activist Desmond Tutu: "Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness." Hope is not passive, it's prophetic, and you've been carrying it in silence like a flame in a storm. While others gave up and bowed out, you held the line. But not everyone chooses integrity in the weight. Jeffrey Skilling, former CEO of Enron, once sat atop one of the most powerful energy empires in the world. But behind the dazzling numbers was a carefully constructed illusion, a facade built on lies, deception, and greed. The fallout was catastrophic. Bankruptcy, federal prison, thousands of jobs lost, and trust shattered across an entire industry. When success is rooted in manipulation, exposure is inevitable. You, chosen one, are different. You didn't build with shortcuts. You built with surrender. In a small town, there's a woman named Lucinda who has been caring for special needs children for 25 years without ever seeking recognition. One Wednesday morning, a philanthropist she once helped as a child anonymously paid off her mortgage and funded a center in her name. Why? Because love sowed in obscurity always returns multiplied in visibility. Something like that is circling your name. The earth knows this pattern by heart. The cicada, one of the loudest insects on earth, lives underground for up to 17 years in silence before it surfaces and sings. That hidden time isn't wasted, it's preparation. When it finally emerges, its timing is precise, its sound unmistakable. Like you, it wasn't forgotten, it was timed. Could it be that every delay you faced was never about punishment, but protection? That every not yet was heaven's way of saying, not like this, not small, not with them, not without your full anointing. Chosen one, you're walking into a season where your name is being brought up in places your feet haven't touched yet. Strategic rooms, powerful hearts, divine conversations are unfolding right now, and your name carries weight in them. The preparation was private, the test was lonely, but the reward, it will be undeniable. What no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love Him. 1 Corinthians 2:9. You are not receiving this blessing because you begged hard enough. You're receiving it because you became the vessel that could carry it. You didn't collapse in bitterness. You didn't manipulate to accelerate. You waited, and now the wait is over. God is using this Wednesday to prove that His promises are not forgotten scrolls. They are living, breathing, unfolding truths. And this week, one of them will touch earth with your name on it. What kind of surprise are we speaking of? Surely it's more than just a coincidence, more than luck wrapped in disguise. For the chosen ones, divine surprises never come randomly. They arrive like long-awaited answers, written in invisible ink across years of silence and surrender. They are the fruit of hidden obedience, the reward for standing firm when nothing made sense. They don't knock like strangers. They arrive like old friends whose presence your soul always anticipated. It might reach you as a phone call that unravels a string of delays, or maybe as an email that opens a long-shut door, or perhaps it arrives more subtly, in the form of peace that settles like dew upon your chaos. A calm so unnatural to your storm that it cannot be explained, only received. What if it comes not as a solution but as strength, not as a spotlight but as silence that finally feels safe? Don't overlook the gentle miracles, chosen one. That inner shift you feel, that sigh of relief you couldn't manufacture even if you tried, that sudden stillness in your chest amidst the noise of your world. That is the move of God. Scripture reminds us in Philippians 4:7 that the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And that's exactly what's approaching. Not a peace that waits for problems to disappear, but a peace that walks into the fire and says, "You don't scare me anymore." Remember Elijah, the prophet who called down fire from heaven with bold authority, and yet, in his deepest hour of despair, he didn't encounter God in the wind, or the earthquake, or the blaze, but in a gentle whisper. 1 Kings 19:12. That's the kind of surprise you're about to experience. Not necessarily loud, but unmistakable. And just like Elijah, it will show up when you least expect it, but need it most. And don't be fooled by how ordinary this Wednesday may appear. Divine days are often disguised in simplicity. The burning bush didn't look like a portal. It was just a bush, until it spoke. The manger didn't look like a throne. It was just a feed trough until it cradled a king. What if your miracle looks like just another Wednesday, until it doesn't? Look at the life of Fred Rogers, the gentle television host who held space for millions of children to feel seen, safe, and valued. He didn't shout, he whispered, but his whisper echoed through decades. That's the power of quiet things done in sacred alignment. And your Wednesday carries that kind of weight, a soft delivery, but a seismic impact. Now contrast that with Bernie Madoff. Once hailed as a financial genius, his empire was built on deception, outwardly impressive, inwardly corroding, and when it all collapsed, it didn't just take money, it took peace, trust, and lives with it. When your motives are misaligned, even the best opportunities become curses. That's not your story. You've waited with integrity. You've suffered with grace. And now something clean, divine, and irreversible is making its way to you. Let's talk about a different kind of parable, a real one. William Kamkwamba, a young boy in Malawi, had no money for school, no formal education and no textbooks, but he had faith, curiosity, and vision. From scraps, bicycle parts, and determination, he built a wind turbine that brought electricity to his entire village. He was mocked, ignored, doubted, but he continued, and heaven met him halfway. Your life, chosen one, is on the edge of that kind of divine unveiling. A gift so impossible, it can only be explained by one phrase: heaven remembered you. Or imagine Thomas, the quiet boat repairman in a fictional seaside village. For decades he served without recognition, patching up vessels, mending nets, and braving storms. Then, one Wednesday, a man whose life Thomas once saved during a storm returned, not just with gratitude, but with provision. A new home, a business grant, a future, not because Thomas asked, but because heaven doesn't forget humility. And just like Thomas, your reward is coming from a place you didn't see coming. What if the seeds you forgot you sowed are about to burst into bloom? Even nature knows how to wrap its wonders in silence. The moonflower doesn't open under the sun. It waits for the night. In the quietest hour, it unfurls its petals with dignity and mystery. It doesn't demand attention. It simply becomes, you are that bloom. And this Wednesday is your midnight, where your soul opens to what has always been destined. Why now? Because the orchestration has already begun. This surprise is not random, it is rhythmic. It is not an accident, it is an appointment. Something wonderful is crossing the threshold of your life, not merely because of need, but because it aligns with the frequency of your soul's original blueprint. This isn't about rescue, it's about recognition. Heaven is confirming that your name is still known, still spoken, still revered in spiritual places that matter more than platforms or applause. You may not understand the moment when it comes. You may feel tears without knowing why, but your soul will recognize the signal. You will pause, breathe, and something within you will say, "This is it. It just began." And you won't be wrong, because chosen one, you were never forgotten. You were simply being prepared for a surprise so precise, so personal, so divine, that only heaven could have written it. You have not been forgotten, not by heaven, not by destiny, not by the divine timeline that governs the chosen. You are not late. You are not off course. You are not being punished for something unseen. You're being positioned with precision, and while others seem to soar ahead, celebrated, platformed, elevated, you were hidden, still, silent. But chosen one, that stillness was sacred. It wasn't stagnation, it was strategy. Because roots don't grow in applause, they grow in secret soil. You faced loss, the kind that reshaped your inner world. You faced silence that lasted longer than you thought your spirit could endure. You witnessed doors open for others while yours remained sealed. But in that long stretch of invisibility, something deeper was forming in you. Just as Jesus was in the tomb 3 days before resurrection, your silence wasn't death, it was gestation. And now, just when the enemy assumed your story had reached its final period, heaven is picking up the pen. This Wednesday isn't just another chapter, it's the beginning of a whole new book. And this time, your life will speak for itself. No press release, no justification, just undeniable favor, just quiet miracles that make noise in the spirit realm, just a rising that doesn't require an audience to be real. You won't need to argue for your place, explain your process, or defend your past. God is about to set a table, and the presence of your enemies will not be a threat, they'll be witnesses. Psalm 23:5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, imprisoned for doing the right thing, forgotten by those he helped. But when God moved, Joseph didn't climb his way up. He was summoned, elevated overnight from a prison to a palace. Genesis 41:14. That's how favor moves. It doesn't ask permission. What if the struggle that once defined your path will no longer be required for what comes next? What if the miracles ahead don't match the pain behind? That's what's about to happen. You're not preparing for small shifts. You're preparing for divine overflow, the kind of joy that erupts without a warning, the kind of open doors that weren't even on your radar because you thought they were too good to ask for. Pope Francis, spiritual leader of over 1 billion souls, once said, "God always forgives, but the world doesn't. We must learn to trust grace more than applause." You've been trusting grace in the shadows, and now that grace is turning into tangible glory. But some chose shortcuts. Adam Newman, the former CEO of WeWork, once stood at the pinnacle of startup success. Lavish praise, billions in valuation, but pride, ego, and reckless vision collapsed it all. His fall was as rapid as his rise. When ambition isn't anchored in integrity, it eventually self-destructs. You, however, chose integrity when it cost you progress. And now, what seemed like delay is about to become acceleration. In a quiet mountain village, a man named Elijah tended sheep alone for 40 years. No audience, no recognition, only faithfulness. One Wednesday, he was visited by a group of school children who had been rescued from a flood. They spoke his name, repeating stories their parents told of the man who once saved an entire town during a storm decades earlier. They handed him a plaque, but more than that, they handed him legacy. He thought he was forgotten. Heaven thought otherwise. Even the natural world confirms this principle. The bamboo tree takes 5 years before it breaks the surface, but once it does, it can grow 90 feet in 6 weeks. Its delay is not its death. Its delay is its depth. The years underground are what give it power to rise without crumbling, just like you. You may have looked around and wondered, did I miss it? But what if you were never behind, only being built for something that required stronger shoulders? The blessing that's coming carries weight, and only those trained in silence, obedience, and endurance can carry it well. This Wednesday is not a coincidence, it's a convergence. The promises you buried are about to bloom. The long preparation you resented is about to become your greatest advantage. And the very people who once dismissed you They will bear witness. But vengeance is not your portion. Rest is, because favor speaks louder than revenge ever could. Stay alert, stay surrendered, stay sensitive. What's making its way to you cannot be stolen, delayed, or denied. It was sealed with your name long before this moment. You may have felt invisible, but divine visibility is about to flood your world. You may have felt like the last, but God always reserves the most astonishing elevations for those who seemed left behind. Your preparation wasn't punishment, it was proof. And now, chosen one, you've been made strong in the quiet places for this exact unveiling. This Wednesday, everything changes, not by effort, but by appointment. Release the need to understand every detail. Let go of the pressure to manufacture what can only be received. What's coming is not a result of your strategy, it's the fruit of your surrender. The divine doesn't operate on spreadsheets or logic charts. It moves in mystery, in spirit, in faith. And right now, chosen one, you are being asked not to perfect, but to believe. You may not see how it's all coming together, but your belief is already pulling unseen forces into motion. Even if your faith feels fragile, even if your hope trembles under the weight of delay, it is enough. Jesus once said in Matthew 17:20, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move." Your tiny yes is stronger than the enemy's loudest no. You don't need certainty, you just need permission from yourself to expect again. So as this Wednesday approaches, don't walk in fear, walk in expectation. Don't scan the horizon in anxiety, stand still in quiet assurance. What's arriving isn't late, it's layered, and it carries evidence that your stillness was never wasted. It was sacred positioning. There was a man named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a preacher, prophet, and pioneer of civil rights. He didn't wait until the world was ready to believe. He believed when it was costly, when the systems were against him. He once said, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase." You've been taking those steps, quiet ones, painful ones, brave ones, and now the staircase is appearing beneath your feet. But faith is a path some avoid entirely. Jordan Belfort, known as the Wolf of Wall Street, built his empire on manipulation and greed. What looked like success was rooted in deception. The collapse was inevitable. The money couldn't protect him. The lies couldn't save him. That's what happens when people chase elevation without transformation. You've been transformed in private. Now elevation is coming, not as a trap, but as a testimony. Somewhere in the hills of Colombia, a young woman named Sophia spent 10 years taking care of elderly villagers, using her own earnings to buy them food and medicine. One day, during a medical crisis, she was anonymously flown to a university in Spain, where she received a scholarship in public health and later returned to build a clinic for her people. She didn't chase glory, she walked in love, and heaven noticed. Even the earth itself mirrors this kind of sacred release. The snow leopard, elusive and nearly invisible, spends most of its life unseen by human eyes, yet its impact on its ecosystem is undeniable. It moves in silence but governs with strength. That's the surprise coming to you. It doesn't scream, but it speaks, and when it arrives, it will echo for years. Chosen one, this moment is not for you to explain. It's for you to experience. What's coming this Wednesday is not merely a reward, it's a graduation, a shift, a holy reversal. Everything you thought was random will begin to align like constellations. Patterns you didn't recognize before will now point to purpose. This isn't payback, it's prophecy unfolding. You've been walking as if nothing is changing, but heaven has been orchestrating shifts behind closed doors. There have been divine meetings about your life, about your name, your placement, your next step, and those decisions were made in your favor. Don't be surprised when you're called into rooms you never entered before. Don't be stunned if someone reaches out with an offer you never applied for. This is what divine reversals look like. This is favor that moves faster than logic. It doesn't just restore, it multiplies. It redeems the years. Joel 2:25. I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten. What you thought you had to chase, it's now chasing you. What you lost, it's returning dressed in acceleration. The people who doubted you, they're about to witness what happens when heaven marks a person for impact. This Wednesday won't come wrapped in noise. It will wear stillness. It will be cloaked in simplicity, but its effects will be thunderous. You may cry, you may laugh, you may fall to your knees in awe, but one thing will be certain. You'll know, not in your mind, but in your spirit, that something written long before your struggle has now come into bloom. You're not broken, you're being sculpted. You're not forgotten, you were reserved. And you're not late, you were hidden for the sake of timing. And now, that timing has arrived. Stay soft, stay aware, stay spiritually open. Because not all divine arrivals come with trumpet blasts or scrolls from heaven. Some come in whispers. Some arrive as a sudden sense of clarity in a conversation you almost dismissed. Some come as unexpected joy in the middle of a regular walk. Some come as a moment of silence that suddenly feels full of meaning. Chosen one, the surprise marked for this Wednesday won't wear flashy clothing, but its fragrance will linger in your spirit long after the moment passes. This isn't just a possibility, it's a prophetic promise. What feels like a normal Wednesday may be carrying a holy assignment. Are you ready to recognize it, even if it's dressed in simplicity? Because the answers you've cried for, begged for, waited for, they're not being postponed anymore. They're arriving wrapped in presence, not performance. God is restoring the language of your soul. What once confused you will start to untangle. The fog that made you question your path is lifting. You're not stumbling anymore, you're sinking. David wrote in Psalm 25:14, "The Lord confides in those who fear him. He makes his covenant known to them." Heaven has been confiding in your spirit long before your eyes saw the evidence. And now, your body, your mind, and your journey are catching up with what your soul already knows. Alignment is here. There's a woman named Leela, a piano teacher in her 60s who spent decades helping others find their voice in music. Her own dream of recording an album faded long ago. But one afternoon, during a casual lesson with a young producer's daughter, her voice was overheard. That same Wednesday, she received an invitation to record. It wasn't luck, it was divine memory. Sometimes heaven writes songs through lives that thought they'd been silenced. The old weight you've been carrying, the one no one saw, the one that shaped your posture, your boundaries, your hope, that weight is lifting now, not in pieces, not someday, but now. You've carried it with honor. You've let it teach you, refine you, but it's no longer needed. Like a snake shedding its skin, your soul is discarding what no longer fits the version of you that is emerging. Steve Jobs, innovator and visionary, once said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward." But chosen one, something rare is about to happen. God is letting you see the dots while they connect in real time. That's the kind of favor you're walking into. Present tense transformation. You won't have to wait 10 years to understand this moment. You'll feel it as it's happening. Now contrast this with Harvey Weinstein, once a powerful film producer in Hollywood, surrounded by fame, influence, and wealth. But beneath the surface lay decades of abuse, manipulation, and oppression. When truth finally broke through, it shattered not just his empire, but the illusions many built around him. His downfall was public, permanent, and prophetic, a loud reminder that power without purity destroys more than it builds. And you, chosen one, have been forged in purity. That's why this Wednesday will not break you. It will lift you. Even the earth itself mirrors what's coming to you. The Arctic poppy, a flower that survives brutal wind and thrives in cold terrain, turns daily to track the sun, even when hidden behind clouds. It instinctively orients toward light. And you too have followed light, even when all you had was memory. Your soul has stayed facing the warmth of heaven, and now that light is coming to meet you fully. But here's the question that matters now. Will you be present enough to embrace what's arriving, even if it doesn't look like what you expected? Don't let old wounds interpret new blessings. Don't let what failed before convince you that you are still unworthy. You are not the same person who was overlooked, betrayed, or abandoned. That version of you is gone. What remains is someone refined by spiritual fire, someone who no longer begs for crumbs but knows they carry royal blood. Isaiah 43:19 declares, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" That's the energy of this Wednesday. A new thing, quiet but unstoppable, divine but personal, gentle but undeniable. This moment, this Wednesday, is not ordinary. It is holy. It's a spiritual shift that will begin subtle but spread like sunrise. You'll feel it in your bones, in your chest, in your breath, and you won't question if it's real, because your soul already recognizes the sound of answered prayers. The world may not notice it right away, but your heart will. Your peace will be the confirmation. It won't feel foreign. It'll feel like home, because in truth, your spirit has always known this was coming. Heaven has just been waiting for your readiness. That's why you kept showing up even when no one noticed. That's why you didn't quit when surrendering would have been so much easier. There was a knowing buried in your bones, a quiet whisper that said, "Wait, hold on, it's coming." And now it's here. The surprise that's approaching this Wednesday may not answer every question, but it will confirm the one thing your soul needed most. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible to heaven. You are not late to your destiny. This moment is not a coincidence. It's a covenant. It is a quiet yet profound reply to every silent tear, every unseen act of obedience, every night you held your own heart together when no one else did. Will it fix everything instantly? Maybe not, but it will ignite the shift your spirit has long been stretched toward. It will be the wind that turns embers into flame. All it takes is one moment to remind you that God has been orchestrating what you thought was chaos. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose." You are part of that purpose. Let go of your grip on control. This isn't about making it happen through hustle, calculation, or strategy. This is the current of divine ease flowing from alignment, not effort. You are in the right place, at the right time, with the right heart posture. And because of that, blessings are beginning to chase you down, not out of pity, but because of preparation. Not because you proved yourself, but because you finally stopped needing to. There's a kind of favor that rushes in when striving stops, and this Wednesday will be the evidence. This isn't just divine timing, it's divine agreement. What would have taken years in the realm of toil is about to happen in days, because you surrendered instead of forcing it. Do you know what makes this moment so powerful? You didn't manipulate your way here. You were faithful. You didn't rush doors open. You waited. You didn't perform for worth. You lived from it. And now heaven is responding to what didn't need to be loud to be holy. Corrie 10. Boom, a Dutch watchmaker who hid Jews during World War II, once said, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." You've done that. You've trusted through uncertainty. And now you're stepping into the reward of that courage. But let us not forget what happens when power is misused. Harvey Weinstein, once a towering figure in Hollywood, used his influence not to lift others, but to oppress and silence. His fall wasn't just a scandal, it was a spiritual reckoning. because what is built on abuse must eventually collapse under the weight of truth. You, chosen one, are rising, not on manipulation but on integrity. That's why your elevation will last. A woman named Imani, a seamstress in Nairobi, used to walk 2 miles each day to deliver handmade school uniforms to children in the slums. She did it for years, unnoticed and unpaid. One day, a journalist caught her story, and within a week, she was flown to Paris to design for an ethical fashion house. She didn't chase spotlight, but destiny chased her. Even creation bears witness. The Mimosa pudica, also known as the sensitive plant, closes its leaves when touched, self-protective, cautious, but once it senses safety and light, it opens fully again. You've been through seasons that made you close up, but now safety has arrived, light has returned, you're opening again, and this time no one will be able to shut you down. The shift you feel isn't imaginary, it's insight. That discomfort in your soul isn't anxiety, it's activation. You're not losing control, you're entering alignment. Isaiah 60:22 says, "When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen." And now, God says, the time is right. This Wednesday is not a repeat of yesterday's disappointments. It's not a recycled lesson. It's a new root system breaking the surface. It's a divine interruption, a redefinition. One that doesn't just give you something, it reveals who you've become. You felt unseen in rooms where you poured out. You were overlooked by people you carried. You prayed for others while your own soul bled in silence. And yet, you stayed loyal to the calling. That's why this blessing will be sacred. It won't come because of applause, but because of heaven's yes. What heaven approves, no man can revoke. And when it's time for delivery, the process cannot be sabotaged. So prepare not just your schedule, but your soul. Prepare to stand under the weight of worthiness. Prepare to be reminded of how divinely loved, fully seen, and undeniably chosen you've always been. Will you allow this surprise to expose your true value? Can you hold space for the magnitude of what's coming? You don't need to beg anymore. You don't need to chase. You don't need to defend yourself in spaces that were never built to contain your future. You will no longer knock on doors hoping to be let in. Doors will open as you arrive, not because they're impressed, but because you're ordained. This Wednesday is not just about receiving, it's about embodying peace, power, purpose. The people who once disregarded you will speak your name with reverence. Not because they've changed, but because you have. And when the room shifts, it's not noise that announces you, it's presence. When the blessing comes, it won't need to be explained. Your life will preach what your lips never had to say. Chosen one, the manifestation is here, not in concept but in reality, not in delay but in now. There's a reason the battle bruised you so deeply, why the warfare seemed never-ending, why the nights felt heavier than they should have. It wasn't because you were weak, it was because you were chosen. The pressure was never punishment. It was prophecy trying to push through you. The enemy didn't rage against your now, he raged against your next. He thought if he could wear you down, he could make you walk away right before your door opened. But you didn't break. You bent, but you didn't break. You cried, but you kept believing. You doubted, but you still showed up. What the enemy miscalculated was your resilience. What hell never accounted for was your divine memory. Your soul remembered what God whispered before the battle ever began. And now, because you didn't fold, you've outlived the resistance. What if the reason the warfare was so intense was because the victory was so historic? This Wednesday will not come to take something from you. It's arriving to deliver justice. Not the loud kind that shouts in headlines, but the silent kind that shifts atmospheres. The kind of justice that doesn't need an explanation, because the results speak louder than defense. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn." You don't have to argue. Your elevation will be your answer. The ones who doubted you will be silent, not because you forced them to be, but because truth silences lies. The ones who tried to block you will realize your promotion wasn't theirs to withhold. And your next level? It won't require revenge. It will only require stillness. Elevation is the loudest silence there is. Nelson Mandela, once a prisoner, later a president, didn't seek vengeance against those who caged him. He sought peace, purpose, and national rebirth. He once said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Chosen one. What felt impossible in past seasons is now finished in the spirit. The struggle did not stop your purpose, it refined it. Contrast this with Lance Armstrong, a cycling legend whose victories were built on deception. He was once revered, but when the truth surfaced, his legacy unraveled. Public applause can't preserve what dishonesty corrupts. That's why your path, though hidden and hard, will outlast counterfeit success. You didn't cheat to get here. You obeyed. In a mountain village in Peru, a man named Mateo spent 15 years planting trees along barren hillsides with no government support, no fame, no applause. Decades later, those trees prevented a landslide that would have wiped out the valley. His quiet obedience saved thousands. He never expected recognition, but what he sowed in faith became salvation. The giant redwood tree, one of the tallest on earth, has shallow roots. Until it interlocks underground with others, its strength isn't in solitude, it's in unity. That's why you've survived, not because you were always strong, but because you remained connected to God, to vision, to truth. What if this Wednesday is the day it all makes sense? What if it's not just a surprise? It's the moment clarity walks through your door and says, "I've been waiting for you." What if the version of you that struggled, sacrificed, stayed hidden, is finally ready to rise? The pain didn't disqualify you, it prepared you. The opposition didn't cancel the promise, it confirmed it. What if everything that nearly destroyed you was actually developing the voice you're about to speak with? The confidence you're about to carry? The freedom you're about to embody? Psalm 66:12 says, "We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance." This Wednesday is your abundance moment, not just in possessions, but in perspective, peace, and power. You are walking into cycles being broken, cycles you didn't even realize were holding you. You'll feel it in your bones. You'll sense it in your conversations. You'll see it in how your mind clears up like morning fog lifting over still waters. And what if your story, your very survival, is becoming someone else's instruction manual for faith? You didn't just endure, you evolved. You became someone who is no longer afraid of delay because you've seen what God does with time. You're no longer triggered by silence because you've felt what He builds in quiet. That's why your miracle will feel personal, because it's not answering a random need, it's answering a sacred assignment. Don't rehearse your pain anymore to justify your breakthrough. You don't need to prove you've earned it, you've embodied it. This blessing is not about earning, it's about alignment. You are standing in the frequency of your calling, and heaven has tuned in. The moment you believed restoration was possible, heaven began preparing it. So what do you do now? You stay open, you stay expectant, you let the miracle arrive without micromanaging the how. You speak to your own soul and say, "I'm ready, I'm worthy, I'm willing." You declare with your posture what you've long whispered in prayer. You are a magnet for miracles, not because you're perfect, but because you're positioned. The same God who brought you through the shadow will now crown you in the light, and the crown won't come from man, it will come from heaven. This is not about hype, it's about holy fulfillment. This Wednesday will not just mark a date, it will mark a divine disruption, a reset, a resurrection, and what you're walking into can no longer be postponed. Something will shift in the atmosphere around you, and it will begin within. A still boldness, a calm authority, a joy that doesn't come from external progress, but from internal resurrection. That's how you'll know. Your environment will begin echoing your energy. Conversations will become more aligned. Resistance will dissolve without your intervention. Support will appear, not because you pleaded, but because you're finally aligned with your assignment. Is this coincidence? Number. This is orchestration. This is the sound of heaven harmonizing with earth. But as the doors open, chosen one, stay anchored, stay grounded. Let humility be your crown, but don't confuse it with shrinking. Don't bow to smallness just because it feels familiar. Don't apologize for being entrusted with glory. You didn't arrive here by manipulation or luck. You came through fire, through prayer, through obedience. Through that midnight moment when your only cry was, "Lord, just help me breathe." What if the very nights that tried to break you were actually sculpting the core of your strength? You didn't pretend to be strong, you became strong. And now the moment has arrived where heaven will publicly honor what you carried in private. This Wednesday won't just surprise you, it will confirm you. Not with noise, but with clarity, with quiet authority, with unmistakable divine evidence. 2 Corinthians 4:17 says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." This is what your endurance has been building. Glory. The weight of what's coming is matched perfectly to the strength you've developed. It won't crush you, it will crown you. Watch how things align. Watch how the right people enter. Watch how finances unlock, how ideas flow, how peace returns to places where anxiety used to rule. Don't explain it away. Don't dismiss the magnitude because you're used to delay. This isn't delay anymore. This is delivery. And through it all, let your posture remain open, not just to blessings, but to transformation. Because what's coming is not temporary delight, it's foundational recalibration. Malala Yousafzai, a global advocate for education, once stood on a stage and said, "One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world." You've been carrying something just as small, an idea, a whisper, a dream. And now it's about to shift your entire world. The ripple begins this Wednesday, but not everyone stewarded their moment well. Sam Bankman-Fried, once heralded as a crypto genius, lost billions in trust worldwide, not because he lacked opportunity, but because he lacked ethical foundation. His downfall wasn't an accident. It was the fruit of a faulty core. You, on the other hand, built yours in silence. That's why your elevation is sustainable. In a city beneath the Himalayas, a woman named Savitri ran a candle stall on a forgotten street. Every Wednesday for 20 years, she gave free candles to those who said they'd lost someone. One day, a best-selling author wandered into her stall after his mother's funeral. Touched by her act of remembrance, he funded a center in her name, bringing light, quite literally, to thousands more. Even the earth is echoing this shift. The lotus flower, born from thick, muddy waters, rises to bloom pristine and untouched at sunrise. It doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It grows in adversity. It blooms regardless. You are that bloom. This is your rising. So what if this Wednesday is the moment when everything changes, quietly but permanently? What if your spirit has already recognized the turning point while your mind is still catching up? What if this isn't just restoration but transformation? Will you recognize it when it comes in peace, not performance? Will you accept the blessing when it wears simplicity instead of spectacle? Will you receive the full inheritance, or will old fear make you shrink again? You are no longer just surviving. You are now shaping reality. You are no longer asking for alignment. You are alignment. This moment is the reward for what you did when no one applauded, for how you kept building when no one saw, for how you spoke life over yourself when everything around you felt dead. This Wednesday will ripple outward into relationships, finances, creativity, clarity. It will touch places you thought were too broken, too scattered, too buried to rise again. Romans 8:18 reminds us, "I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us." This is your unveiling, not a glimpse, not a preview, a full revealing of what has been hidden for far too long. So stay open, stay expectant, speak to your spirit and say, "This is the moment I was made for." Don't miss what you've been praying for simply because it comes dressed in humility. This isn't just happiness, it's alignment, it's peace, it's divine timing delivering what delay never could. You have not been overlooked, you've been preserved. You have not been denied, you've been prepared. And now that your inner world has matured, your external world is following suit. This Wednesday is your proof. Heaven doesn't rush, it builds. Some of the things you thought were dead are stirring again. Buried dreams, quieted visions, prayers you once whispered through tears. They're rising, but this time they're not wrapped in pressure. They don't feel like demands. They come clothed in peace. They come wearing timing. You are no longer receiving from a place of desperation. You are receiving from a place of readiness. What if the reason those dreams felt distant before was because they were waiting for this version of you? This Wednesday is not just the answer to long-standing prayers, it's a convergence of timing, of energy, of divine permission. Yes, material blessings may flow, opportunities, doors, partnerships, but the true gift is deeper. It's soul-level restoration. It's that sensation when your mind no longer wars with your spirit, when your heart no longer contradicts your purpose, when your body no longer carries the weight of what's not yours. This is alignment. This is overflow. Philippians 4:7 says, "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." You are entering that peace now, the kind that silences doubt without needing explanation. You'll walk into a room and sense clarity. You'll encounter a stranger and feel destiny's whisper. These are not accidents. These are activations. They are divine echoes signaling that heaven has not forgotten you. But why this Wednesday? Why now? Because the divine clock is never early and never late. This isn't just a midpoint in the week. This is a spiritual apex. The month has matured, the atmosphere has shifted, and this Wednesday becomes the fulcrum between what you lost and what you're about to gain, between who you were and who you're becoming, between enduring and emerging. And what if the smallest shift, an emotion, a word, a pause, was actually the doorway? You may receive a message that feels subtle. You may hear a phrase that makes your chest tighten, a song lyric, a news headline, a random conversation. But chosen one, nothing is random when you're walking in rhythm. Zechariah 4:10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." Heaven doesn't require fireworks. Sometimes a whisper is enough to trigger a divine avalanche. This is not the moment to explain yourself to people who can't understand spiritual language. You are not obligated to justify your expectations to those who only see in the natural. Not everyone is assigned to witness your next chapter. And that's okay. This Wednesday holds a sacred exchange, not meant for crowds, but for covenant. Even the life of Helen Keller, deaf and blind from infancy, echoes what you're stepping into. She once wrote, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it." Your overcoming has not been in vain. It's made you fluent in a language of faith few understand, but heaven does. And this moment, it speaks that language. But contrast that with Billy McFarland, the entrepreneur behind the infamous Fire Festival. He sold a dream, luxury, exclusivity, paradise, but delivered disaster. Behind the sleek marketing was chaos, manipulation, and empty infrastructure. What began as a vision collapsed under the weight of fabrication. His fall wasn't just a legal matter, it was a warning. When you fake alignment, eventually the truth dismantles everything. You, chosen one, are different. You didn't sell a version of yourself that wasn't real. You didn't manufacture miracles. You matured into them. You let truth shape your path instead of optics. And that's why your emergence will last. It's not just dramatic, it's divine. Somewhere in the American Midwest, a man named Raymond spent 14 years cleaning churches after hours. No one knew he was also writing music late into the night. One Wednesday, a pastor heard him humming while mopping and asked him to play. That song later became a national gospel anthem. Raymond didn't chase spotlight. He was faithful in the quiet, and that's why favor found him. Even creation testifies. The chambered nautilus, a deep-sea creature, builds new chambers inside its shell as it grows, leaving the old ones behind. Each room it inhabits was once unthinkable, but growth required expansion. You are expanding now, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and this Wednesday is the door to your next chamber. So why have you been feeling the shift? Why have you sensed something around the corner without knowing what? Because your inner world has already stepped forward. The divine surprise set for this Wednesday is a response to your spiritual alignment. It's not luck, it's not karma, it's divine intelligence flowing into form. Will you protect your sensitivity? Will you honor what you feel, even if you can't explain it yet? Will you stay available even when it feels uncomfortable? You don't need to overthink what heaven already scheduled. You don't need to audition for blessings that were always meant to find you. What's about to arrive carries a seal that no resistance can remove. You are not chasing it anymore. It's tracing you. Stay open, stay soft, stay sovereign. You are not fragile anymore. You're fortified. The whisper you hear on Wednesday will be a confirmation, and from that whisper will come a roar of change, of restoration, of redefinition. And it will not just change what you see, it will change what you are. As this divine surprise touches down in your life, it won't just change your schedule, it will shift your internal weather. There will be a release so profound, your body may not know how to process the sudden absence of pressure. You'll feel it in your chest first, like a sigh that's been waiting decades to exhale. Then in your mind, a silence where chaos used to dwell. Then in your steps, light, purposeful, confident. People around you might say, something's different, and they'll be right, but it won't be because of one gift. It will be because of the weight that's finally been lifted. You've carried invisible burdens, questions without answers, grief without language, expectations without support. This Wednesday is heaven's way of saying, you don't need to carry that anymore. What if what's being given to you isn't the reward, but the removal of what was never yours? Watch how things start aligning. That opportunity that once lived in a distant dream now shows up in an unexpected call. That connection you once chased now circles back with new respect. That environment that drained your light no longer intimidates you. Why? Because the surprise isn't just in what shows up, it's in what clears out. Psalm 37:23 says, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way." Your steps now carry precision. You won't have to force what fits. You won't have to squeeze into places that weren't made to hold the magnitude of who you've become. You've matured, and that maturity is what finally makes this gift safe to release. You're not being rescued. You're being released into destiny, into calling, into clarity. You're no longer a wanderer. You're a builder. You're no longer hoping for approval. You're holding divine assignment. Toni Morrison, Pulitzer Prize-winning author and voice of cultural reckoning, once said, "You are your best thing." And chosen one, you are about to start treating yourself that way. You're not waiting for others to validate your worth. You are stepping into the holy confidence that your existence is already evidence of divine intent. But not everyone chooses integrity with their gifts. Martin Shkreli, once a biotech executive, gained notoriety for raising the price of life-saving medication overnight, prioritizing greed over human need. His wealth was loud. His fall was louder. When purpose is hijacked by ego, it eventually implodes. You, however, are not driven by applause. You are moved by assignment. That's why your surprise won't just elevate, it will equip. In a rural town in Morocco, a woman named Nadira used to bake bread in clay ovens and leave one extra loaf every morning for someone in need. She never knew who took it. One day, a humanitarian aid group, having heard of her selflessness, offered her land, funding, and staff to open a community kitchen. That loaf, placed without expectation, became the seed of a movement. Even the earth reflects this. The sunflower doesn't chase shade. It orients toward light even as the sun moves. And when it's cloudy, it turns toward other sunflowers to borrow light. You are that kind of soul, learning how to lean, to rise, to grow with grace, even in unpredictable skies. So watch what begins to rise inside you. You'll sense it first, not in noise, but in discernment. Not in confirmation from others, but in deep, holy knowing. The whisper within will get louder. Your spirit will begin to say, "This is it." And you'll no longer doubt it. Will you believe what you're sensing, even before the evidence arrives? Will you honor your intuition without needing outside applause? Will you protect what's emerging rather than overexposing it too soon? Will you release the version of you that survived so you can become the version that creates? Will you stop rehearsing old pain in rooms that now require your presence, not your past? Isaiah 30:21 promises, "Your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it,' whenever you turn to the right or the left." That's what's happening now. Guidance, clarity, alignment. But don't mistake this clarity for convenience. You'll still need courage. This new season comes with new standards. You'll be called to walk away from rooms that once applauded you, but now limit you. You'll have to say no to distractions disguised as comfort. But you won't hesitate, because now you know. You've been prepared. This Wednesday is more than a miracle. It's a commissioning. It's not coming to flatter your ego. It's here to feed your mission. What you're about to receive is not just a gift. It's a tool, a torch, a table, a trumpet. You've got something to build, something to birth, something to carry that the earth is aching for. Chosen one, this is elevation. Not the loud kind that trends for a moment, but the sacred kind that sets the tone for a lifetime. This is when you stop responding from survival and start creating from identity. The blessing that's coming is tailor-made, and it is not the finish line. It's the first note of your new symphony. You've grown enough to handle it. You've died to old patterns long enough to live fully in the new. And now your assignment is catching up to your awareness. And this is just the beginning. By the time this Wednesday arrives, your soul will have already said yes. You may not have the full picture, you may not know the details, but something inside you already knows. It's coming. A quiet awareness is beginning to bloom. That sense that you're not waiting anymore, that you're being summoned. Why does your spirit feel so calm in the middle of chaos? Why does peace arrive before the package? Why does your chest flutter when there's no evidence yet? Because heaven delivers in order, first to your soul, then to your space. Before the miracle reaches your hands, it rehearses with your heart. You are already in motion. Even if nothing looks different yet, your spiritual environment is shifting. The blessing isn't coming to shock you, it's coming to confirm what your spirit has long carried. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." And chosen one, that's what you've been doing. Guarding, praying, preparing. You didn't know when, but you knew it would happen. And now, what you once whispered is walking toward you. What if the calm you're feeling isn't random? What if it's evidence that heaven already sent the delivery? What if your spirit saw it before your eyes ever could? What if the miracle isn't about sudden change, but long-awaited fulfillment? What if this Wednesday isn't introducing something new, but reminding you of what was always yours? You're about to receive what you once only imagined, and when it arrives, it will feel eerily familiar, like déjà vu wrapped in divine timing. You'll pause and say, "I've been here before," and you'll be right, because your spirit walked this path before your body ever caught up. William Kamkwamba, a young boy from Malawi, once lived in extreme poverty, with no money for school and no access to books. But he had curiosity and faith. Though he had no formal training, he used scrap metal, bicycle parts, and a few old books to build a wind turbine, bringing electricity to an entire village. No one believed in him, but he believed. No one supported him, but he created. His story proves this. When you say yes to your divine assignment, the divine assignment says yes to you. Chosen one, what's coming to you carries that same magnitude, something that once seemed impossible, arriving precisely when all you have left is unwavering conviction. Contrast that with Dan Bilzerian, a social media celebrity who built a brand on excess, bravado, and spectacle. But behind the facade were lawsuits, mismanagement, and unstable foundations. His story reminds us, when presentation outweighs purpose, the collapse is inevitable. That's not your story. You built from silence, not spotlight. And now your rise will last. In a quiet region of southern France, an old man named Lucien spent decades restoring ancient vineyard soil that others deemed too barren. He planted anyway, pruned anyway, watered anyway. The soil responded. Years later, the most fragrant wine bloomed from vines that had once been written off. That's the kind of emergence you're walking into. The rhythm of the earth mirrors this divine order. The monarch butterfly, before it becomes what it was destined to be, dissolves completely in the cocoon. It doesn't just shift, it disintegrates and then reforms. That's why this moment feels so strange. It's not a small change, it's a total transfiguration. Romans 8:11 reminds us, the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is living in you. That means you don't just hope for resurrection, you embody it. What's rising in you now is not new, it's eternal. It's just finally being revealed. This Wednesday, what happens may not be dramatic, but it will be definitive. A word, a moment, a silence that says more than 1,000 shouts. You won't need confirmation from people. Your peace will be the confirmation. Your tears will be the release. Your stillness will be the sign. So will you trust what you feel more than what you see? Will you accept that your spirit's memory is more accurate than your mind's fear? Will you stop asking when and start preparing as if it's already here? Will you stop apologizing for the shift and start protecting it? Will you finally agree with what heaven has been saying about you all along? This Wednesday is not just a day, it's a return to calling, to wholeness, to divine partnership. You're not just crossing into something, you're re-entering who you were before pain distorted your lens. You've lived this in dreams, you've touched it in prayer, you've seen it in flashes, and now, chosen one, your eyes will behold it. You are no longer hoping to arrive, you are the arrival. Chosen one, if your spirit has been stirring while listening to this message, that's not coincidence, it's confirmation. Confirmation that this Wednesday is more than just another date on the calendar. It is a divine threshold, a sacred hinge in time where your preparation meets God's perfect orchestration. What's coming isn't random. It's been waiting for you to be ready. And beloved, you are ready now. You've endured the silence, carried the unanswered prayers, held on to hope even when nothing around you shifted. But just because it was silent doesn't mean heaven was still. Just because it was hidden doesn't mean it was denied. Something wonderful has been quietly forming behind the veil, tailored for your soul, timed for your faith, and destined for this very moment. This is your reminder. Don't underestimate what can change in a day. Don't dismiss the power of a Wednesday anointed by eternity. And above all, don't let discouragement blind you to divine movement. Because while it may look ordinary to others, heaven has already stamped it as extraordinary for you. If this word resonated with you, if it felt like a divine whisper echoing what you've been sensing deep within, then comment 777 right now as your public agreement. Declare it, seal it. Let heaven and earth witness your alignment. Comment 777 if you're ready for your Wednesday wonder. Like this message if it stirred something in your soul. Share it with someone else who might need the reminder that miracles have appointments too. Subscribe if you haven't already, so you never miss another divine message right on time. And whether you've supported this channel through a super thanks or simply through your presence here today, thank you deeply. Your time, your energy, and your faith are honored here. Now, may Wednesday meet you not with pressure, but with peace, not with stress, but with sacred surprises. May you walk into that day carrying quiet expectation, holy awareness, and bold trust, because something wonderful is waiting, and it's been waiting for you all along. Blessings over you, beloved. See you on the other side of the miracle.